Hello and welcome to The Woven Word. This is a series of 360-degree interactive videos in which we'll introduce you to Ulster's rhyming weaver poets. This was a body of writers who wrote in their own vernacular Ulster-Scots tongue, and as ordinary working class people, their poetry shines a light on what it was like to live and work at this period in our history. So in each episode we're going to look at one poet in particular, and the programme will end with a narration of one of their poems. Now, when I tell you this is an interactive series, what does that mean? Well, it means you can look all around with me. If you're at home, take your mouse and move it around to look up and down and left and right, behind you, in front of you. Or for the most engaging experience of all, put on a VR headset. And look where we are. For this programme, we have come to Raphoe. Sarah Leech was born in 1809, about 5 kilometres or so from here, and she would absolutely have known Raphoe well as the local market town. She would have known this very impressive building. Look up on the hill at the ruins of the Bishop's Palace, also known as Raphoe Castle. This was built following the plantation of Ulster, a period when a lot of Scottish people and some English began to make their homes in the north of Ireland. The bishop at the time, Bishop John Leslie, built this outstanding palace for himself, and later in the 1820s it was extensively restored. Sarah Leech was living at that time, and you can imagine Sarah and the people of Raphoe watching in astonishment as this incredible palace, rose up on the hill above them. Sarah had died by the time it burnt down in an accidental fire. She would also have known the cathedral. Look behind you now with your mouse or your headset. St Eunan's Cathedral there, standing there with the clock tower just in front of this beautiful blue sky. That was built on a much earlier site. There's been a monastic site there from about the 7th century. Sarah knew that cathedral. She knew the old graveyard that stands all around it. In fact, that graveyard features in the poem, which we're going to hear at the end of this programme. Robin the Gravedigger even gets a mention in one of the verses. She would have known these beautiful rolling green hills, this pastoral landscape. And yet hers was a life marked by poverty and by loss. When she was only 3 years old, her weaver father, Thomas, he died. Sarah and her widowed mother and her siblings were left to try and get by as best they could. Sarah was spinning at a spinning wheel. When she was 6, her mother managed to send her to school, but the school was dissolved soon after, and that was the end of her formal education. But she had an older sister who taught her the alphabet and taught her how to read and write, and Sarah Leech really took to this. There was a kindly neighbour, a benefactor in the area, who lent her some books and also taught her about religion, and Sarah developed a very deep conviction and great personal Christian faith of her own. When she was in her teens, she began writing poetry, and it was very good poetry. It came to the attention of the literary set. One man got some of Sarah's poetry published in the Londonderry Journal, and another guy, a graduate from Trinity College, actually got a book of Sarah's poems, 25 poems in English and Ulster-Scots, published in Dublin. It was called Poems on Various Subjects by Sarah Leech, a peasant girl. That must have been very gratifying for her, but she was still working at the spinning wheel. Her eyesight was deteriorating. Dogged by rheumatism, she was now having to use a crutch, and tragically, she died at the age of 21. It's a terrible loss because she was a talented poet. Her poetry reflects her love of the countryside, her personal faith, her belief in fairies, the importance of thriftiness. Very interesting. And the good news is that a new book of her poetry was brought out in 2010. This volume, Sarah Leech, the Ulster-Scots poetess of Raphoe, County Donegal. The two female editors of this book, Celine McGlynn and Dr. Pauline Holland, have brought her back to a new generation. And it's Dr. Pauline Holland, whose voice you will hear now, reading one of Sarah's poems. This is Elegy on a Loquacious Old Woman, and it's beautifully balanced. It begins with the death of Kate, and it appears to be an elegy, but we soon discover that this is actually quite satirical because Kate had a biting tongue. Kate was a great gossip, and there'll be no one mourning her in the old graveyard here at Raphoe. There's some lovely Scots words I want you to look out for. Look out for clash for gossip. Ilk yin means each one. I is always. Old is old. Rackle means rough or scolding, and nae means no more. As you hear Pauline reading this poem now, you're going to see the words appearing on the screen so you can read them. Or if you're watching via YouTube, expand the description and jump forward. And instead of seeing the words, you'll see a series of beautiful 360-degree panoramas from this part of Donegal, which was so well known and so beloved to Sarah Leech. So I hope you'll enjoy this now. Thanks very much indeed for listening.
Nae mair I tune my rustic reed, o'er hill and dale where lambkins feed. For I'm on deck in morning wheat, and sigh alane, while tears pour forth like amber bead since Kate is gane. Ye clattering wives that wail like news, come join in grief wi' my poor muse. For Kate could gie, though quite recluse, clash to ilk-ane, nane passed her door without their dues. But noo she's gane. She vowed she had nae thoughts of greed, and strove her innocence to plead. But aye, her tongue gaed at full speed, baith day and night, and hope she might contention breed, her soul to licht. She talked of folk wi' seeming grace, could colour lies wi' time and place, and to speak fair before their face, she ne'er was slack, though weel their failings she could trace behind their back. Come, Peg, let fa the tribute tear upon your good old auntie's bier. You hae nae langer cause to fear her ban or switch. Your croon nae mair the mark shall wear o' her old crutch. Nae body this poor wecht could spare, frae scandal she could ne'er forbear, as flies licht on the place that's sere, with wounds contented. So she their failings laid bare, and mair invented. But noo neglected low she lees, nane to perform her obsequies, wi' heaving breast and wathrees, nane free nicey, a Christian funeral nane devise, poor Kate for thee. Alas, she noo is laid full low in the cowl kirkyard of Raphoe, where I ilk market day shall go, as she did crave, nor drop the tribute tear o' woe upon her grave. But yet my wish and farewell prayer to Robin, wha has her in care, is that he'll keep her safely there, lest she should rise, for nane her rackle tongue could bear, or cursed lies. Nae mair I tune my rustic reed, o'er hill and dale where lambkins feed. For I'm on deck in morning wheat, and sigh alane, while tears pour forth like amber bead since Kate is gane. Ye clattering wives that wail like news, come join in grief wi' my poor muse. For Kate could gie, though quite recluse, clash to ilk-ane, nane passed her door without their dues. But noo she's gane. She vowed she had nae thoughts of greed, and strove her innocence to plead. But aye, her tongue gaed at full speed, baith day and night, and hope she might contention breed, her soul to licht. She talked of folk wi' seeming grace, could colour lies wi' time and place, and to speak fair before their face, she ne'er was slack, though weel their failings she could trace behind their back. Come, Peg, let fa the tribute tear upon your good old auntie's bier. You hae nae langer cause to fear her ban or switch. Your croon nae mair the mark shall wear o' her old crutch. Nae body this poor wecht could spare, frae scandal she could ne'er forbear, as flies licht on the place that's sere, with wounds contented. So she their failings laid bare, and mair invented. But new neglected low she lees, nane to perform her obsequies. We heaving breast and what threes, nane free nicey, a Christian funeral nane devise, poor Kate for thee. Alas, she knew is laid full low in the cowl kirkyard of Raphoe, where I ilk market day shall go, as she did crave, nor drop the tribute tear o' woe upon her grave. But yet my wish and farewell prayer to Robin, wha has her in care, is that he'll keep her safely there, lest she should rise, for nane her rackle tongue could bear, or cursed lies.